Hey everyone, so a little over a year ago I made a video about wireless induction LEDs and how they can be used to spruce up your Gunpla, and since then I have been plagued by the same question. So without further ado, I present to you a quick tutorial on extended range wireless LEDs and how to use them in your Gundam model kits. Let's get into it. First, let's look at our humble induction LED unit. It consists of a tiny light on a tiny circuit board attached to a plastic spool with a copper wire coil wrapped around it. Our first step will be to carefully remove the LED light itself from the board using a soldering iron. I'm taking care not to damage any of the components while heating up the solder and prying the light away from the coil. Once the light is removed, we should now have a tiny LED light and our induction coil with exposed positive and negative terminals. The next step will be to solder a length of wire to each of the terminals so that we can extend the range of our LED light. I'm sure you can do a much cleaner job of this than I did. So here we have a large induction ring connected to a power source, and this is one of the standard LED units, and as you can see, it has some pretty decent range. So let's test our circuit before going any farther and make sure that the wires are connected properly and ensure that I know which side of the LED is positive and negative. I'm not entirely sure you need to worry about positive and negative terminals, but just in case, it's better to know which end is which.
Give my creation life!
With that step done, we can solder the ends of our wires to our itty-bitty LED. I was fortunate that the solder from the original unit was still good, and this part was easier than I expected. So now we have the real test. Since before the light was still inside the ring, let's see how much more distance we can get from our wireless LED. As you can see, with the coil down close to the ring and the LED about 6 inches higher, we get a nice bright glow. While at this range the standard LED still works, you can see that it's already getting much dimmer in comparison. Now here we are almost a foot away from the ring and our extended LED is still burning bright while the standard unit is completely off. So we've effectively doubled the range of our LED. This particular unit now has about 5.5 inches of lead away from the coil. So what does this mean for our Gunpla applications? Well, I would say that the benefits are twofold. Not only do you get the distance away from the coil, but the old unit also took up a lot of space, meaning lots of cutting and drilling in order to make it fit in the kit. But now we only have to worry about this tiny LED, which fits in most kits without alteration. So let's put this into practice. I've got a high-grade goof flight type that will work great for this. We can install an LED mono eye and run the wire to the coil down in its foot, where we can hide an induction ring in a base instead of up near its head. First, we'll need to make a mono eye, and for that I will use my trusty beam effect part plus pen cap trick to punch out an appropriate sized lens. Next, we'll have to drill a little hole in the visor, as this kit was one that used a sticker for its mono eye. So I'll start with a pin vise and work my way up to a hobby knife until the hole is big enough for the lens that we've just made. With that step done, we can drill a small hole in the base of the head to thread our LED through and carefully position it behind the mono eye lens before closing it all up. You can glue this in place if you want to, but I chose not to in this case. So with the head reassembled, we'll need to figure out how to thread the wires down through the body, so let's take everything apart and see how much cutting we'll have to do. Whenever possible, I love cutting notches in polycap parts, both because they are softer and because it is easier to hide your wire channels. So I cut a little V shape in the back of the neck polycap where we can secure the wires down from the head and into the torso. Next, we need a hole for the wires to exit the pelvis so that they can thread into a leg. So I carved a little notch in the outside of the polycap that connects the groin to the waist joint. Now we can reassemble the torso with the LED coil hanging out from the bottom. The next step will be figuring out which leg we want the coil to be installed in. So let's take apart the left leg entirely. We'll thread the coil down through the socket where the leg is connected to the hips and seal it up with the wires facing towards the back. This actually looks kind of cool because they look like the exposed inner details you might expect to see on a mobile suit. Then we'll reassemble the lower leg, locking the wires toward the back and hiding the coil in the large space behind the foot. Finally, we can put this bad boy back together and see if we've made some magic. Eagle-eyed viewers might recognize this diorama base from an IBO display I was working on, but I've since made some modifications, as you can see, hiding my 10-inch induction ring underneath. This can be used to power up lights on the surface, as you can see, and even through all the plaster the coil has some decent range. But let's see how well it plays with our new high-grade goof. So far so good, and the light is much brighter than the plain LED unit alone since the coil is so much closer to the base. All that's left now is to take some glamour shots. And yes, for bonus points, you can wire multiple LED lights to a single coil, allowing you to, in theory, power an entire kit with multiple lights from a single unit, as long as they are wired in parallel circuit, not in series. Meaning you can't daisy chain them, each light needs a direct line back to the power source. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge shout out to my patrons for making this video possible. Have fun experimenting, everyone. I will catch you later.